give you guys a lot of information, answer your questions, and help you through this home buying process and get you feeling really comfortable with everything. I'm Jeff Porter. I'm with Utah Community Credit Union, and this is Brett Wild with the Wild Real Estate team. I do the lending. He does the real estate side of stuff and helping you get a home. So between the two of us, we got a lot of knowledge. So we're going to be able to hopefully pass on a lot of stuff to you guys tonight and answer a lot of questions and help you along. We'll just we did say we're going to start here at 6:30, so we're just going to start moving forward and tell you a little bit about ourselves and do some introductions. So, Brett?
Perfect. Well, we're glad to be here. Thanks for getting on the call and the webinar here. And just to give you a little background, I've been working with UCCU now for a few years, and it's been a great partnership for us. And I just appreciate their infrastructure and their reliability and competitive rates. And they've just been awesome. And so just appreciate being here with you. Background on us. So I run a team. There's 9 of us, and we're just all full-time agents, and we love what we do. We own homes. We're investors. We're kind of well-versed in all of real estate, so we'll have a lot of different perspective for you. But like it says here, I did a sales and marketing degree at Weber State, and I've actually been in the business now for over 10 years. And now we've been involved in over 700 either residential or construction projects and or home sales and purchases. So a lot of different scenarios. We've seen, sometimes it feels like we've seen it all, but then we see something different that comes down the line. The market is changing dramatically right now. So tonight you're going to get a lot more perspective on how to be competitive, the financing options, and a lot of different ways to be more up to date on how to compete. So I live right here in the area, so right here in PG, just excited to be here with you. So and then there's Jeff.
Yeah, so I've been 7 years now with Utah Community Credit Union. I've worked in the broker world in the mortgages, worked for some different banks in my past history, but 25 years of lending experience, and just really enjoy helping folks with, the whole lending process, getting you through the process, putting you in the right type of product, and making sure that we're getting you the best payment we can and getting you the best financing. So I've really done every kind of financing there is out there when it comes to mortgages, FHA, conventional, rural housing, Utah housing, construction loans. We do investment properties. I know about the grants, and we even have portfolio lending here at UCCU. So I've really done just everything and can really help you with some different options and ideas as we're going along. But Brett and I'm actually also a Weber State grad. Should probably have that on there. We hail from the great north, but love Utah County. Been living down here for 22 years and enjoying my time down in Utah County. So anyway, we'll get right into it here. We'll start going through, and if you have questions, you can put it into the question and answer portion of the webinar, and we'll be happy to jump in and answer questions as we're going along and hopefully, again, put you guys at ease with the lending process and purchasing process of buying a house. But UCCU, we are a full service lender. We do everything. We do the conventional and FHA loans, VA loans, rural housing, which is that USDA loans. We also do first-time homebuyer programs like the Utah Housing. And we also have a couple of different grants that we've got available. One that's an in-house grant and another one that is exclusively for down here in Utah County, minus a couple of cities. But and we can talk about those a little bit further too as we go along. One thing that's really great about being at a credit union is if you have mortgage insurance attached to your loan, that's for any loan that's over 80% loan to value, meaning you put less than 20% down. any of those loans are going to have mortgage insurance. And UCCU, because we're a credit union, we actually get better rates on our mortgage insurance than you do if you go to a bank or a mortgage broker that's out there. We also at UCCU, we keep almost all of our mortgages. So you don't have to worry about it. In the lending world, in mortgages, typically what happens if you're a broker is you're using some other lender to close that loan, and then that loan gets sold off into the secondary market. So you're not really sure who it's going to end up with, and it can get sold multiple times. But UCCU, we keep our mortgages over here, almost all of them anyway. And so you know where you're going to be making your payments. You know you're not going to be sold off, and that's a nice added benefit. And then, of course, you could always walk into one of our branches, and we've got a lot of branches up and down Utah County. Salt Lake, we just opened our Harriman and Draper locations, and we're expanding into Salt Lake. And so credit union's growing, which is a good thing. We love it. And then, of course, we got great connections here with our real estate partners like Brett. He's amazing, and we're lucky to have these relationships. So good deals. But the first step that you have to do when you get on when you're working towards getting buying a home is the very first step is you need to get pre-qualified or pre-approved. There are differences between getting pre-qualified and pre-approved these days, though. Pre-qualified is you're going to put in an application with us. We're going to look at your credit, and we're going to go off of kind of what the income is you told us, what you have in your savings account, and we're just going to kind of go off of just kind of what's listed there. A pre-approval takes the next step, and we get your bank statements, your check stubs, your W-2s, and we're verifying everything. We're even running the automated underwriting system to make sure we're getting an approval through there. And in this day and age, you really can't just get pre-qualified. You have to get pre-approved because sellers, it's such a competitive market. They don't want you to just have only a pre-qualification letter. They want the full pre-approval. They want to know that you are good to go as far as a lender can take you. So that's what we're really looking to do at this stage.
Yeah, and this is so important to understand as you're moving forward and offering on homes. You've certainly heard of friends and family, neighbors that have been in this bloodbath, and all these people that are out trying to buy homes. And sellers are getting more and more educated and savvy as they're choosing which buyer to take. Most of these sellers are depending on this contract or the offer that they accept, so they can get paid and they can buy the home that they're looking at and they've committed to. And so getting a pre-approval letter as opposed to a pre-qualification letter, that might set you apart as either losing or winning on the bids. And so very, very important as you're going through and you're talking to Jeff or you're shopping around that you're making sure that your pre-approval is the status you're shooting for. So you're one step further of having a tight file to win on those competitive offers.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just going to quickly answer a couple of questions here that are popping up in the field. Does UCCU do loans on lots? And we do. In fact, those are 20% down is what we're required on those. But yeah, we do lot loans for people. And in fact, we're doing a lot of those right now. A lot of people are out buying land. On top of that, we also do construction loans. So if you've bought that lot and now you're looking to build a home on it, we will help you with the construction loan as well. So that's an option. Just know that when you're doing a custom build like that, that's what they're called, custom builds. You do have to have quite a bit of money into it. So minimum of 10% down, sometimes as much as 20% down on the total cost to build. So just keep that in mind. Can I get pre-approved with multiple lenders to compare rates? You certainly can. Each of them is going to pull your credit report. So you want to start with the best one, UCCU, make sure that we are where we are. However, do you need to compare rates right away when you're just trying to get pre-approved? No, you don't, because what you're doing at this stage is you're just making sure that you can get qualified to go make an offer on a home. Once you've made the offer and you've gotten that accepted, that's when you really want to maybe go around and check to see where the rates are. Now, it's going to be pretty hard to beat us because we're going to, and I'm going to bring this up front this time. So, because you're on this call with us, you're actually going to get a really, really nice benefit. Brett and I are going to give you $1,000 off your closing costs. Now, when you start comparing other lenders, that's going to be really, really hard to beat. So, $500 comes from Brett, $500 comes from me at UCCU, and we're giving you $1,000 off. So, yes, you definitely can go and compare rates, whatnot, but you've landed at the right spot to begin with. It's going to be pretty tough to beat us.
That's right. And of course, even without that, rates are extremely competitive.
They are.
You know, you're going to have a great experience. I personally have several loans with UCCU, mortgage loans, and it's just so super slick to go to the website, get on one dashboard, see what all my balances are, what all my interest rates are, and just to be able to manage that. It's been super helpful and fluid.
I do too. Of course, I work there, but that's the one thing that I've really enjoyed is your mortgage loan shows right on your online banking, so you can see, there's your checking, your savings, there's your mortgage loan, there's your auto loan, and you can just click right on your mortgage loan. It gives you everything right there. It's going to tell you, your recent activity. You can pull up statements. You can do anything you can think of in there. So it's really great. Here's a good question that just popped up. If you change your mind, can you pull it off after you make an offer? We're skipping ahead, but
yeah, a lot of these questions we're going to talk about as we go. We're going to talk about the whole offer process, the how to be competitive, what the contracts look like. To answer this quick question, it depends on how you write your offer. If you write it contingent upon due diligence or financing or appraisal, then yes, you have a period of time to change your mind and get your earnest money back. So it really depends on what you have to do to win.
Let's go to the next slide, James. So one of the questions that pops up when people are getting pre-approved, or maybe I should back up just a second here. A good reason to get pre-approved is to uncover any issues that might be something we can resolve right away. So some people say, hey, I'm not really interested in getting pre-approved right now because I don't think I want to buy a home until 6 months from now. Well, I would recommend getting the pre-approval done because you don't know what you don't know. So we might pull up your credit report and see that there's some negative credit things that are on there, or maybe you've got a little bit higher of a balance on a revolving credit card that if we look at it and we can see that, we can say, hey, we could improve your credit score if you were to do these things now, so that in 6 months from now, you'll be in a much better position to get the best rate, to get approved, whatever the situation is. So just as a side note, I get pre-approved as early as possible because that's going to solve a lot of potential issues down the road.
That's right. And you'll learn as we're on this discussion, Jeff and I really focus on having a big picture strategy in mind. And if you're like most people, you're going to buy and sell a home every few years. 83% of people's retirement today is in today's age comes from their home equity. And so the better, more educated, the more planned you are with everything financial related, that's going to put you so much further ahead as you're strategic and you know where you're at. So we really just call a lot of these pre-approval meetings just financial assessments. And so if you can take a snapshot of what your credit score is doing, where you're at with your banking, when you really understanding your goals, then we're in a much easier position to see what we need to see so we can help you strategize on how to make some tweaks on your credit score, how to get the best rate, how to position for the next move, or if you want to get into the investment side, whatever that looks like. We collectively want to just help keep growing your net worth and your equity through doing this the most effective way possible.
Right, absolutely. And part of this is we got these credit concerns. How does pulling my credit affect my score? Well, you do have it's a hard pull, so it does bring down your score just a little bit. 5 to 7 points is really where it goes in there. But the nice thing is once you have your credit pulled, it's good for 4 months. So it's not like we have to continue to pull it every 30 days and have it dinging your score all the time. That's good for a long time. And by the time those 4 months are over, it's not affecting your score anymore. And so your score has come back up. And if you had to repull it, you could at that stage. The best strategies that are effective for boosting your score are the most important thing is revolving credit history. So revolving credit is your credit cards, store cards like RC Willie that would have a revolving line, those type of things. And you want to keep the balance to the limit at 50% or less. So if you have $1,000 limit, you wouldn't want the balance on that credit card to ever go over $500. You get a little bit better if you're under 30%. And so, if you can be at 30%, that's even better. But that is a strong, strong factor on where your credit is going to be. Of course, you always want to make your payments. Don't miss making your payments. And you don't want to, one of the things that I've seen people do is they get a lot of offers in the mail and they're like, oh my gosh, this is a great offer for this credit card. I'm going to open up this card. And they get another one the week later. Oh man, I should open up another one. This is even a better offer. You don't want to open up a bunch of new pieces of credit. 2 to 3 revolving credit cards is fine. And I wouldn't have any more than that. That would be my recommendation. And so just a couple little tidbits. I mean, there are a ton of other little factors that can go into it, but if I were to give you just a couple of quick items, I think those are probably the most important. What scores get the best rates? That depends. It's depending on what program you're working on, but anything that's 740 or above is getting the same highest, like that's the best. So whether you were a 741 or an 820, you're all going to get the same rate from the 740 and above. So, of course, it's great if you can get in the 800s. Oh my gosh, you're doing fantastic, and that's amazing. But we do have first-time homebuyer programs that'll go down as low as like a 640 score. So, and we've gone down as low as a 620. So there's everything from all kinds of different things that are happening there. So it just it depends on the individual situation and which program we're going to use. Debt to income ratios, what do they mean? That's exactly what it reads, but that can be confusing. But what we're doing is you take your debts or your income, excuse me. No, debts first. Gosh, got a little tickle. You take your debts, the total amount of payments, not the balances, but the payments that you're making, and we're dividing that by your gross monthly income. So when we talk about your debt to income ratios, that's how those are being calculated. And just as a simple factor, we don't want to see with your new mortgage payment, you go above 45%.
That's right.
So,
and there's a lot to learn, like we mentioned. We've got a couple other little goodies for you if you're on this tonight. When we get together, we talk about the financial assessment, your next steps, help really delve into your specific situation. We're going to give you a couple books here. This always blurs it out, but
how does it do that?
I don't know. The screen's all funky. Anyways, a couple books here that we're going to give you. One is it summarizes a lot of what we're talking about, strategies on how to build your credit score. Lots of different stories that's easier to relate to on how to get through this process, how to get education, be more prepared, and just learn as you go.
Read them the title.
So this one's called Buy Confidently. And then another one's How Money Works. So again, the more you can understand these basic principles and get them to work for you, and learn about compounding interest and the rule of 72 and what insurance should I get. It's so effective to have a basis and an understanding of these principles. And so there's lots to talk about on the financial side. This will help you to breeze through these books and just be more prepared to win as you move forward.
And they're not difficult books to read or understand. They're written very, very just anybody can grasp them, and they're great reads. and they're not long either. They're just a good short read that
Mhm.
teaches you a lot in a short period of time. I've read them both, and I just love them, so they're great. Let's move on to that next slide. Oh, before we get too far, so on average, there's a question here. On average, how long does it take the pre-approval process? So we've got an online application where you can go in and you enter all your information. You can do all of that in about 10 minutes online, and then depending on your particular situation and the items they're asking you to upload, like pay stubs and W-2s, if you have those readily available, then you could upload those in just a few minutes, or maybe it might take you a little longer. But I would say probably, start to finish, you could probably do the whole thing in 15 or 20 minutes. And then once that's completed, myself or one of the other loan officers are getting notified, and then we go in there and we can look at everything, and then start customizing your situation to what loan programs would work, and then we can call you and go over payment scenarios and do different things like that. So, but that first step is to get all your information in, and that probably is going to be anywhere from 15, 20 minutes, something like that. All right, how much can I qualify for or afford? Well, as we hinted on earlier, it's going to depend on your income, how many other debts that you have. Are you doing a down payment? How much of a down payment do you have? And this is a really important subject for you guys to know. Most people, if I were to ask you, how much do you think you need to do as a down payment? Most people would say 20%. I've always heard I got to put 20% down. That is not the case. We, in this day and age, with our different mortgage options, we have first-time homebuyer programs that allow you to go with zero down, 100% financing. So depending on your situation and what works best for you, we may recommend that. Maybe we would recommend a 3% down program or a 5% down program. So there's all kinds of different options, and it just depends on your individual situation. You'll probably hear that a lot tonight. But the most important thing is, as we're going through everything, we do not want you to be house poor. We don't want you to go, oh, I got this beautiful home that I can sit in, but I can't afford to drive my car or go out to eat. So I'm just sitting here and never go anywhere. We want you to be able to live. We want to talk about what the payment is that's good for your budget and what works and what you feel comfortable with.
Yeah. And very, very helpful to know. One of the common questions that I have is that we get, hey, is it better should I keep saving and get my 20% so I can have a lower payment and avoid PMI? And that's a real good question. We need to understand what the market's doing. And as you know, the demand has never been higher, the supply has never been lower. And so the market is increasing more than I've ever seen it in the last 10 years I've been in the industry. It's changed dramatically in the last 6 months. And so it's so competitive. And keep that in mind. How does that affect you? Is if you're going to go buy a $400,000 house, from everything that we're reading and seeing based off the current statistics, it very well could hit 20% increase in appreciation this year. So 400,000, 20% of 400,000, Jeff, what's that number?
$80,000.
$80,000 is what your home could cost, the difference from today and a year from now. And as you're evaluating, well, is it better to keep saving so I get the 20%? It might take you a year or more potentially to go from 3%, do a conventional loan, UCCU's minimum, or go to get 20%. But just by waiting, you just lost a whole bunch of buying power with your money. And to give you an idea, and the rates are also a huge piece.
Right. And we're historically low on our rates.
Right. We went back down again.
Rates, yeah. We climbed up, wasn't too much, maybe 1/4%, but it's gone right back down. So we're an amazing time for rates right now. Anyway, sorry, you were gonna.
Yeah, and how does that affect you? And so the rates, they went up past 3.25 in the last little bit, and so now they're dropping. They're going to keep fluctuating, but to give you a real easy example, if you were to go out and buy a $300,000 home and the rate was at 4 and it jumped to a 5, just that 1 point difference is going to cost you $66,000 more if you finance that home for 30 years. If you break it down per month, that's $218 a month difference because of the rate change.
Is that based on the $300,000 loan?
That's based off of 300. When we're kind of past that now, you can barely get a town. Well, you can almost not even get a condo now for 300. And so an average sales price now is closer to 400 for a single family, 4 to 500. And so that rate, again, don't miss the rate because you're working so hard to get that 20% down. It's best to just utilize one of these programs, get into the market, and retain as much buying power as you really can get.
Well, if you think of it from an investment perspective, you think of buying a home as an investment. Investment's all about your return on investment, right? How much am I going to make on this home? And if you're talking about 20%, and let's say you bought that today, and then a year from now it was worth 20% more, there is nothing, well, there might be some things in the market, but that is an amazing return on your money. So to be able to get in and buy a home and know that the values are just climbing, it's a great opportunity to make some money in real estate.
That's both Jeff and I are heavily investing in real estate. And the cool part is, well, if you're going to borrow UCCU's money, you're just looking at what the return is on your down payment. So if you came in at 5% of 400,000,
20 grand.
So it's 20 grand, but now you're actually getting the appreciation on the $400,000 asset, right? So if the market went up 20% and it went up to 80,000 in 1 year, well, you're taking your 20 grand and you're turning it into 80. It's insane, right?
Wow.
And so anyways, there's a lot of other advantages and strategies financially that you will benefit with owning real estate. We'll talk about that more down the line, but these are all topics that we love to discuss and we're familiar with.
Yeah. We can go on to the next slide there, James. So I'm just going to give you a kind of a quick overview on some of the different types of mortgages that are out there. And the first little bit here is fixed versus adjustables. A fixed rate mortgage is exactly what it means. It means that the interest rate is fixed at what you got when you lock it in all the way through the end of the life of the loan. So on a 30-year fixed rate, that means that the interest rates, let's say you locked in at 2.875, then you're going to pay 2.875 over the life of the loan. An adjustable rate mortgage is different. It will lock in that rate for only a short period of time. So say it's a 5-year option arm. That means in the first 5 years it'd be locked in at say 2.75, but after that it would become variable depending on way the markets are fluctuating and moving. So in this day and age, with the rates as low as they are, nobody is really using adjustable rate loans. Most everybody is using the fixed rates, but I wanted to explain what the differences were. So then the actual loan types themselves, you've got a conventional loan, and most people are using the conventional loans right now. The reason being is you can go this says as little as 3 to 5% down. That's right. So you can do as little as 3% down. But then what we're doing a lot of times is incorporating a grant into that to help you with the down payment. And so that's covering some of that 3 to 5% down, sometimes all of it, but and then all you have to worry about are the closing costs. So there's some really good options that way. But you've got conventional and FHA are kind of the two main products. Conventional is just pretty straightforward. You got your interest rate, you've got your closing costs, and if you're above 20%, not putting quite 20% down, then you're going to have monthly mortgage insurance. But once you get to 20% of the original value of the home, then that mortgage insurance is going to fall off. So it's just like your payment just went down. So that's pretty great. Let's skip to the next slide. So FHA loans are a little bit different in the fact that they have a little bit more down. You have to put 3.5% down as opposed to 3%. But FHA loans have an upfront mortgage insurance premium that's just tacked onto the loan. It's not something you have to pay out of pocket, but it's 1.75% that they add to the loan. So you are paying it. Now, so why would anybody want to do an FHA loan? Well, because they have better interest rates. They're making you pay for the interest rate up front into the loan, but they're giving you a better rate. The other thing that's weird about an FHA loan is the monthly mortgage insurance that you have to pay doesn't ever fall off. So it will reduce as time goes by, but on where the conventional loan, it'll just completely fall off. With FHA loans, you have to pay it for the life of the loan.
So you'd have to refinance if you want to remove it.
Right. So you'd have to refinance from an FHA loan into a conventional loan. You also have Utah housing loans. Now, those are based off of an FHA loan, but what they're doing is they're doing two loans simultaneously. The first mortgage up to 3.5% with the 3.5% down, and then they're doing a simultaneous second mortgage that covers all of the down payment of the 3.5% plus an extra 2.5% to your closing costs. So you can literally, using that loan, get in without any money out of pocket, get into a house. So it's pretty cool. It's talking about the other. So we've also got VA loans. That's a veteran loan. So if you've been in the military, great loan. You want to use that if you've got the benefits for it because you're a veteran. USDA loans are rural housing loans, and they go to 100% financing, but they're geographically limited. So here in Utah County, you've got two areas south of the Spanish Fork River, so kind of Salem, Payson, Santaquin, or it's west of the Jordan River, so parts of Saratoga Springs and then Eagle Mountain. But you're limited to those areas if you use the USDA loans. USDA loan does have some income limitations too, so sometimes people don't qualify for that. So you have to look into that as we go along. What else we got on there?
Let's talk about self-employed versus a W-2 income. So if you're receiving a 1099 or you're self-employed, that's my situation. It's a little different. If you don't have that verified income, then generally you have to have 2 years of commission averages, right? And then show those on your taxes. And so it's a little more tricky. So it's a really good idea, again, on that financial assessment side. If you're self-employed, you can still definitely buy a home.
Oh yeah,
but
for sure.
It's going to be important to know how long you've worked at your job. It's also extremely important if you're just right there at that 1.5, 2 year mark, you need to be very, very aware of how much you're going to try to deduct in your taxes. A lot of the buzz and the benefits of being self-employed is being able to write off and expense a lot of your income, so you pay less in taxes. Well, that could end up eliminating you to purchase, because your taxes is a huge consideration. What you show as your gross adjusted income on how much income you show, right? So if you get too aggressive there, just know that that could affect your availability or your ability to get a pre-approval. So just these are great conversations.
No, and you want to have a really, really strong conversation with your loan officer, especially during tax time when you're doing your new taxes. Every situation is going to be different for every self-employed borrower. So we couldn't give you a generalized number of what you need to make on what, because you may have more payments that you're making on cars and credit cards and things that would make a difference to what you're doing. And you may want a bigger or smaller home than the next guy. And so all those things are taken into account, but you just need to have a good conversation with your loan officer during that pre-approval process and figure out what's going to work from there. There was a question here, actually, can you explain more about the first-time homebuyer grants? That it's such an individualized thing from person to person on whether or not you qualify. That would be really, really difficult to hit here. All I can tell you is that there's one grant that can go as much as $7,500. There's another grant up to $20,000. There are income limitations, so it depends on how many people are in the household and some different things, credit scores, and so we would have to talk to you on an individual basis about the actual grant and whether or not you qualify. Last question that we missed here. Will UCCU finance an out-of-state home? Yes, we do. We do out-of-state lending in all 50 states. Well, we're already here in Utah, so the other 49. So we can definitely work with you on that. We can go to the next slide, James.
All right, so this is my end here. what do I need to know about hiring an agent? There are so many agents out there. In fact, there was just an article that came out on KSL a couple weeks ago that there's more agents than there are homes that are available for sale. So that's always fun.
Isn't that the craziest thing?
Yeah. So you have heard it doesn't really take that much to get a real estate license. It's 120 hours and a pretty rigorous test to pass. And then after that, you can be a weekend real estate professional, right? So there's a lot of different options, and you certainly know several people that are in your network that are agents, and you can get a lot of different opinions. And so, anyways, this is a really good time to vet who you're going to work with, and just be confident, really, that you're getting the very best representation, somebody that's had a lot of experience in different areas. But on this piece, so part of the reason why I got into real estate personally is finally got through college at Weber State and had W-2 income. Like Jeff mentioned, I was able to get a home loan easier. And one of the first things I did was call my lender and said, "Hey, listen, what do I need to do? I'm excited to get into the home ownership status." And so he gave me enough confidence just through a quick pre-approval discussion, or sorry, pre-qualification discussion, that I decided I was going to keep my eye out. So anyway, one day I was driving down 1200 West by the old Trafalgar, if you remember where that is, by UVU, and noticed a for sale by owner sign in the front yard on a home over there. And so, anyways, being as excited as I was, I stopped over. Figured, well, let's do this. I didn't really know about the how it all worked. I figured I just got my degree at through the university, and it wasn't how hard could it be, right? So, anyways, and it really wasn't very hard. But I'll tell you the story how this ties in together. Knocked on the door, and a really nice lady answered the door, and I told her that I was interested in her house, and she was excited and enthusiastic, invited me in, and we walked around her home. We were there for 15 or 20 minutes, and she showed me everything about the house. Seemed like a great fit. I could easily put, some roommates in there, as I was single, and it would have been a great income opportunity. And so, anyway, we kind of shook on a price, and I told her I was going to call my lender and see what I could come up with, and I'd call her back here in another couple hours. So we did. So I got off the phone. I got off the doorstep, called my lender on the phone, and he says, "Oh yeah, you're going to be good to go." In fact, I did a 0% finance. Then my interest rate was 6.25%, which in 2004 was great. So I was so thrilled because I just spent all my money on tuition, and I didn't have anything to cover really any down payment option. So I was just so excited he had an option for me. Called her back up and said, "Okay, let's do this." And she says, "Well, hey, listen, by the time you left and somebody else showed up and they said they'd pay me, they would pay me $5,000 more than what you and I agreed to. And I already made a commitment. So, I want you to have the house, but if you're going to buy it, then I'm going to need you to pay me more money. If you can match that." And so she says, "I have got a little handwritten letter here. I'll show it to you when you come down." And so I was bummed, but I wasn't going to lose this house. And so I said, "Listen, just hold on to that note. I'll come talk to you. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Drove back down. We walked through the house again quickly. And then she had a purchase contract, a REPC, that was already printed out on her table. And so we sat down and she started filling it out really quick and initialing, the bottom of each page, as I did the same. And then we both signed off right there. So now we're officially under contract. But this was important because as we were going through the house, she told me all the different pieces that were included, and made a pretty clear representation of what I could expect to receive in this deal, right? So anyways, it took about a month to get the loan completed. And I didn't really have much interaction. I had like one or two phone calls or text messages during that window of time. And finally, that 30 days came. I went to the title company, signed a stack of papers, and then called her, said, "Listen, I'm so excited. Where are the keys? What do I do now?" And she didn't respond other than a quick text message saying, "The keys are under the mat. Good luck." Right? So anyways, it was a rainy day. It had been raining for the last few days. uh, I went straight to the house.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, right. So had I only known, so this is where it got exciting. Is I opened the door to my new home and just kind of stood there. There was a split entry home, so as I was sitting there looking, I could hear something upstairs, and so I went up the stairs and there was some drip. There was a drip water coming right out of the ceiling where the swamp cooler is. And not only was it dripping, but as I looked further into it, the sheetrock in the hall was wet. It had been going on for a while. So that was disappointing. So I start calling this lady. Her name was Danette, and I call her up and I says, "Hey, listen." Of course, she doesn't answer, so I leave her a message. She doesn't return my call. And then as I'm waiting for her to call me back, I looked around in the kitchen and I couldn't find the fridge that we agreed on. There was no stove, no microwave, and there was all these pieces that she had told me that was going to be a part of the deal. None of it was there. And anyway, so I was starting to get a little concerned. But she was MIA, and I could not reach her. So
Oh yeah, she didn't want to answer your calls.
yeah, why would she? She got her money, and she was out,
She was
and
gone.
yeah. So anyway, so that was kind of my first experience. And then, as I was there and I started doing some project, I started finding more and more problems with this house. It was built in 1960 and things I didn't even know to think about or to look into. And I called a few of my relatives and got their opinion. And the first one, it stays very clear in my head. My Aunt Susan, she says, "Well, Brett, didn't you get a home inspection? And what did your agent do to help you, through the due diligence process?" And I kind of felt really dumb at that moment. I said, "Well, what do you mean? What agent or what inspection?" I didn't know anything about what I was entitled to do. And it was really,
Because you just graduated from college with your regular bachelor's degree. You have this. You're not into real estate yet. Yeah, but this is like your introduction into the most like worst case problem child thing ever.
isn't it great? So
Oh,
this was me basically getting into my first experience with real estate. And anyway, so long story short, there was about $10,000 of either repairs or appliances that were missing that was on the contract, but I didn't even know how to chase her down and get that back because she wasn't answering any of my calls. So it ended up being more painful for me than maybe somebody that was down the road a little bit financially. But what was probably most discouraging as I got more into it and what I know now is, had I just found a friend or someone that I knew that could have helped me with that transaction, I didn't even have to pay that agent to represent me and help me through and use their experience in my behalf. I thought I was doing myself a favor on not having to pay that fee for that buyer's agent. So anyways, the only thing I did was put another 3% or more of profit into the seller's pocket because the sellers are usually the one that pays that anyway. So
yeah.
anyways, so what does the agent do from the store? They will help you through your due diligence. They'll help you with inspections. They're going to help manage and the contract, the terms, and all. There's a lot of details that go in there, and they're basically just going to be on your side and be your advocate as you negotiate and finish that process.
Well, and they would have done one of the biggest things that would have helped you is a final walkthrough on the property before you went to sign them on the dotted line. And usually you do that same day, right? Well, I guarantee that lady had that stuff pulled out of there before you were
Oh,
going
you
to the going to the title company to sign everything.
you bet.
So
And so that's another piece, right? So there's just a lot of different sides of the contract that would have protected me had I known. So it was a painful learning experience. So those are a few good examples, and there's some more stories in these books that you'll read. But anyways, so who pays for a buyer's agent? The sellers do. Now, when you guys go sell a home, um, it's important to know that the sellers traditionally pay all the selling fees for the buyer's agent and their listing site. So you hear you make money in real estate when you purchase, not when you sell. The more you can anticipate what these fees are going to be and what other costs are associated with your exit strategy, the more positioned you're going to be to effectively make money as you go through this process.
Very wise words. Yeah.
So there's a lot of little strategies we'll be able to help you with. So we talked about that. The differences between teams and agents. Okay, so take some time and interview anyone that you're thinking about utilizing or helping you through this process. How many homes have they sold? What's their experience? What added values or services do they provide? So part of what you remember from our introduction, we do what we call an HDTV experience. We have a sister company that does remodels and some building, and so it's so helpful as a buyer to when you're going into any home purchase to be able to evaluate what certain repairs or upgrades will cost before you even go into the deal. And so you can start really treating this home not just for a place to live, but for a great financial vehicle to meet your goals and to move ahead that way as well. So understand, ask questions on credibility and track record, read reviews online, get some references as you're not just with my side, but even with the lending side.
Well, I got to talk about the difference between the actual like a team of agents that you're working with versus just one individual. And something you hit on earlier is that there's a lot of people that have entered the market as real estate agents, and a lot of times these people have a separate job. They're working a part to full-time job, and they're doing real estate part-time, and they're typically not part of a team. They're just trying to do a little side hustle with this real estate. And I've worked with those individuals, and I've also worked with the team. I've worked with Brett's team, and I was able to buy some property because it was a team situation. And let me give you an example. So I really wanted to buy an investment property, and we've been looking for a property in the market for some time. And this one came up in Lehigh, and it just came up on the market that day from one of your tools that got sent to me on my email. It popped up, and I'm like, oh wow, look at this property. So called Brett right away, and Brett was out of town, but he had his team to work with, and so his right hand woman, Mikkel, they're related. Cousin.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she was part of the team. She got us out there right away that same day. We ran out there within maybe an hour or two. We're able to make an offer, and we got that accepted and got that property because of that team, as opposed to just dealing with an individual agent. Had it just been Brett all by himself, Brett would have been like, oh, well, let me see if I can round somebody up, or, a buddy here at the office or whatnot. And we may not have gotten out there in time to make the offer and be able to get the property. But that team, I feel like, is a key thing just because of my personal experience that I went through. And I would recommend it to anybody that's out there looking to interview for agents or whatnot. I'd really look for that team group to work with as opposed to an individual. So
great point, and thanks for that. Yeah. You'll notice, if you've heard, this market is more competitive today than any other market that I've personally ever seen. And so you can pretty much plan on, if you're spending if you're not spending at least 500 to 600,000, and even if you are, you're going to go against several other buyers and bidders. And it's not just the guy that has the most money that's going to win. It's which strategy you employ, what techniques you use to win, how you structure your offer, how much you know about what the sellers are trying to achieve and what their situation is. Anyway, we have 7 specific strategies that we use, and our track record is extremely good at helping you win, no matter your financial situation. And so, as inventory is low, you've got to position yourself with experience to help get you through the process as soon as possible.
Well, I got to give you some accolades right there. So I keep hearing from, I run a team of loan officers, and then I know a lot of longtime loan officers here at the credit union, mortgage loan officers, and every one of them keeps saying to me, oh boy, this real estate agent, they're having such a hard time. They've got this borrower, and they keep getting their offers, or they're not getting any of these offers. And I just keep having Brett's team. You don't win every offer, but I keep having the offers the purchase contracts rolling in that, hey, here's another one under contract. Here's another one under contract. And nobody's perfect. I mean, you guys can't be perfect, but my word, I'm compared to what I'm seeing in other team, mortgage loan officer and their individual agents, they're doing a great job. So anyway, I just wanted to
Thanks, Jeff.
a little.
So let's skip ahead on the next slide here, James. But those are just some good examples of things to think about. So when you're looking to buy a home, what sites should you use? What are the difference between open houses for sell by owners? Keep in mind, anytime a home is listed, if it's listed on the MLS, which is utahrealestate.com, and any of the other brokerage sites like Homey or Remax or anything else, it's going to be homes that are generated from the MLS, right? And so those prices that you see already have a brokerage fee or commission for your buyer's agent built into the price. And so
already negotiated.
Yeah,
it's already there.
Right. And so keep that in mind. But when you go straight to an open house, which is a great idea, just make sure that the first thing you do when you walk into that home is let them know, say, hey, listen, thanks for letting me come in. This is the card of the agent that I'm working with. He's not here, or maybe he called ahead to let you know I'm coming. Because if that agent is there hosting that open house, he is hoping that he can either talk you out of using your agent that you've hired, or maybe you didn't have one. But at the end of the day, he's already contracted a package price for the purchase commission and the seller's commission. So he's entitled to the whole thing. And who is he going to watch out for? His seller, who he represents contractually already, or you as you come in without or with representation, right? So this is important to know.
Yeah. I mean, you have an obligation as a realtor to the person you're selling the home for over everything. And so if they're trying to represent both sides, yes, they have some fiduciary responsibilities and whatnot to be able to handle that equitably as they're going through it. If they're trying to represent you as the buyer agent and the seller agent, but truly, I mean, if you just think about it logically, they have to represent the seller agent over you, the seller over you as a buyer. So it's way better to have that buyer agent representing you when you go into a situation like that than letting one agent handle both sides.
That's right.
If that makes sense.
And so don't not go into an open house. And that's great English, right? So keep going into the open houses, go into model homes from builders. Do everything you can to continue to drum up as many opportunities as you can, in addition to those that we're automatically sending you through your emails that match your criteria. Because collectively, we need to come up with as many options as possible to evaluate. Just remember, there's a lot of sellers that are trying to mark their homes up to an outrageous amount of money. I'm hearing homes selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars over what they're really worth. And that really, you probably don't want to be in that situation where you're that overextended if something were to happen, or you get a job change and you have to sell now and you have to take this huge loss on what you bought your home for. So it's good to take whatever home, whoever found it, is go to your agent, have him make sure he does an analysis on the value and what walks you through those steps so that you're protected financially, right? So Zillow and other sites, there's some really good interface sites out there that you can use. Zillow is one of my favorites as far as the interface and usability, because it's clean, it's easy, the pictures always seem good. Just know the way it works is, have you ever paid anything to Zillow to use their site?
No, that's a no.
Right. So Zillow is charging thousands of dollars to multiple agents per zip code through the whole country. They're just a money-making machine. And what happens is these agents are advertising in these zip codes. They're purposely, once their houses that they're listing goes under contract, they won't take them off Zillow because they're hoping that you'll still call on their advertising and they can pick up a lead and turn it into a potential client. So that's great for them, right? But how is that for you when you are sitting at the computer, you find something come up that you like, and you call on it?
Yeah, I had this frustration. I didn't realize that was the case as I first started looking for these properties I wanted to buy, and I'm like, what the heck? What's this property's listed on here? It's for sale, and then you go to the property, and it was already sold.
Right.
It'd been sold, and sometimes people have been living there for a month or so. And so it's important to be able to navigate past that. And that's what a buyer realtor will be able to do for you. And you're getting to that. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's just good to understand how it all works. So if you can save yourself a little bit of brain damage and partner with the real estate agent, the guy that you hire, get on his specific site. Ours is wildteam.com. It's married right into the MLS. Excuse me. So that way, you know that any home that's being sent to you meets your criteria, and we have tools that can automatically send you results as soon as they hit the market, which saves you a lot of time to not have to be checking your phone, every 15 minutes or at lunch break, and so to see if something came up. So we'll check that for you. Plus, we personally have a really cool network, and partly because of our UCCU relationship through Utah Home Buzz, which is a back end site that we share together, and other tools that we have where we have a whole list of off market properties. Yesterday I checked and we were up to like 75 off market properties that haven't even hit the MLS yet. So we've got a lot of kind of inside info before it even goes live, so it'll help you from not having to compete as hard.
Yeah, is that Utah Home Buzz with 2Z's.com?
Two Z's.
Do you want to put that on there, James, for us?
Yeah, put that on there. It's a great tool. So anyways, there's some things to be aware of there. Anyways, we can go ahead and skip to the next one. But Homey, other brokerage sites, they're all brokerages. Any home that's available will be listed on the Homey site as well, and any of the Homey's homes that you see, they're going to be listed on our site and vice versa. So, and there's a whole bunch of differences between the services that each brokerage provides and the ease and the availability of support that's going to get you through the process faster and more efficiently. For example, we mentioned the 5 key strategies. We actually have 7 now that we utilize to help buyers win offers. We'll get into that more as we meet and go through your situation. And so plan on that. What else? What do you need to know as far as placing an offer? There's several different contract deadlines, and as you go through the agreement, there's different pieces that's going to protect you, but it's also going to be presented to buyers, sellers, to help them understand which offer they like the best, right? So one thing is, the first thing on your contract is going to be your earnest money. How much earnest money are you going to offer? So earnest money is basically another word for consideration. Once you go under contract, whatever that earnest money amount is, if it's $1,000 or $10,000, whatever you decide as a buyer to offer, that money is going to be held in our brokerage account, in our trust account, which is going to basically be there as a referee to make sure you as the buyer and the seller comply with what everyone's agreed to. Okay,
which is on the contract.
Which all is spelled out.
It's all spelled out on the contract. So don't think that earnest money is just magically disappearing or going somewhere. At the end of the period of getting you all approved and when you're going to closing, that earnest money is applied to your mortgage. So let's say you had to come in with $10,000 at closing, and you put, these are just easy numbers, $10,000 at closing, and let's say you put $5,000 earnest money down. Then you'd only have $5,000 left to come to close with. So it's brought to you at the end, but the money is exactly what you said. It's a referee. We have to complete and hit certain dates and deadlines as your lender. The seller has to hit certain dates and provide you with information, and all of these things have to happen for everybody to be taken care of in the right way.
That's right. And the example I shared earlier, when I wrote the earnest money check as part of that offer that I gave that seller, I wrote it directly out to her.
Oh no.
And yeah, and I didn't know to do anything different. So, I thought that's what you did. And so really now, as I've learned over the years, well, that was great because I had no recourse. If she was to bail or go sell the house to somebody else, I would really just it would be upon my own efforts to get lucky to get her back on the phone and give that back, or her integrity. And doing it the right way takes all that out of your hair, and you just change your liability position where you're protected because there's a lot of laws and regulations within the state and in our profession that we can protect you there. So it's
Another reason to
understood.
use a realtor, make sure it's taken care of. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So anyways, earnest money inclusions, anything that's attached to your home, they're considered fixtures. So if you were to take your home and shake it upside down, anything that stayed attached, that's part of your real estate purchase contract unless excluded. So that stove and the attached microwave and the dishwasher that was missing when I moved in, that was part of the deal, boilerplate. Like that's already built into every single real estate transaction unless it's excluded specifically. I had no idea. But so inclusions, you'll have an opportunity to get whatever's fixed to the home, but there's also a section on that offer where if you even want to ask for the trampoline or the lawnmower or whatever, you can do that as long as both parties agree. But once it's written and signed by and executed, seller and buyer, then contractually that's part of the deal, right? So moving down, deadlines. You got first your seller disclosures deadline, which is a part of your due diligence. Okay, that's when the seller is going to provide us a 7-page document, and it's going to ask a bunch of questions on what they know about the history of their ownership, if they've ever had any insurance claims, if they've ever rented the property, if they've ever had any illegal substance, any problem that they can think of, they should have that submitted to us, and then we have you acknowledge.
It's a great document.
It's so
Because,
helpful.
yeah, it really just puts the seller on the spot and makes sure that you know that you're seeing everything that's happened with the home that they know. And because it's a legal contract, they're bound to what they're saying. They have to tell the truth on that.
That's right. And there's a lot of teeth that this has. This has leverage. So if you go and are misrepresented of things that the seller did know about, and later you close on the home, if there's issues there, then there's a lot of leverage an attorney would have to go on your behalf. But the point is you don't want to get to closing and then deal with these problems. You want to know as much as possible while you're in the contract period. And so you're protected by all the pieces of that agreement.
Yeah.
So you don't have to close. It's so hard to unwind a deal that's already closed and you are now the owner. It's expensive, and there's legal fees and there's selling fees to get it back on the market and sell it. And so if you're going to be unsure, and if there's things that would cause you to walk away, the time to do it is when you're in your offer process. It's when you're dating. You're not going to wait till you get married and now you got to go through the divorce process. So that's another reason you want to understand your deadlines. So the seller disclosures, then the due diligence deadline is generally a couple weeks. That's when I should have done that inspection. There's many inspection companies. We'll recommend you the ones that we like that are going to go through, and they basically test drive the house.
Mhm.
They're going to turn on the plumbing. They're going to run a cycle in your dishwasher. They're going to run the heating and the air conditioning.
They're going to check all the plugs for your electrical.
Everything. They're
Yeah.
going to garage doors. They're going to look at your foundation. They're going on the roof. Anything that they can learn about the home, and then they'll generate about a 30 to 40 page report that you're going to have so that you can evaluate what this is going to look like and what your risk is as you go forward to buy this home. Okay, so there's the due diligence deadline. Many of our offers are contingent upon due diligence, meaning if you don't like what you find in the due diligence phase, you have the opportunity to ask the sellers for adjustments or concessions. And if you don't like the result, you can cancel if your offer is contingent upon due diligence and get your earnest money all the way back. So you really aren't out any money other than your inspection costs, right? So and then you got your financing and appraisal deadline.
That's me.
And that's what is that, Jeff?
Yeah, financing and appraisal is just we want to collect all of your information, have it reviewed by an underwriter, and this is going to include an appraisal and the title work from the title company to make sure there aren't any weird things on title to the home. That all gets reviewed, and we get an approval from the underwriter by this date. So that's a very important date that we pay attention to as a lender, because we don't want to jeopardize your earnest money in any way, and make sure that we hit those dates. So
after that financing and appraisal deadline, your file on the lending side is pretty much ready to go, and then we can move to do that final walkthrough, and then we'll go to closing. So closing happens right before closing. We want to do that to make sure we go through the home, it's in the condition that was agreed upon. And then once it closes, then you're going to it's going to take you usually another day after it records. And then you're going to now be the new owner. You get the keys and you get to move in, and everything should have went smooth. So that's a summary of the deadlines. Let's go to the next slide here. So we talked about the seller disclosures, the due diligence, inspections. If you're going to buy a condo or a twin home or a townhome, anything that shares any type of exterior structure or roof, even some single family homes are in HOAs. And so you hear of a lot of positives and negatives about HOAs. Generally speaking, there are problems when you didn't do your due diligence and you didn't review the financials or the minutes or the bylaws of the HOA. So typically there's CC&Rs, which are covenants and restrictions that a neighborhood has that governs what you have to do to stay within the guidelines of that specific neighborhoods. That's with any subdivision that's out there. Bylaws is another overlay that HOA has. There are additional rules that say that you can't rent your home, or you got to keep your cars off the street.
Yeah, that happened on one of us. We went to make an offer. I was all excited about making an offer on this place, and Mikkel had pulled up the bylaws, and she's like, "Oh, they're not allowing you to rent here anymore." I was like, "Well, that's not going to work because I was going to do this as an investment property." So again, just great reason to have a realtor to be able to help you through these and make sure that you're reviewing these things during the right process. So anyway.
So had you closed on that condo and you didn't know about that, because it does happen, then
I would have had to turn around and resell it.
Right.
I had no other choice because I wasn't going to move into it.
Yeah.
So I would have had to resell that, which would have been really tough because you just spent all this money buying the property, then turn around and selling it. You're definitely going to take a loss.
Yeah, you could have lost 10, 20,000 just like that. So
just like that.
Lots of little things to look into while you're going through your due diligence. Home warranty, that's basically a 1 year coverage if you move in. A lot of people are kind of short on finances once they pay their closing costs and their down payment and their inspection. And so a home warranty is designed that a seller will potentially provide you a 1 year coverage policy that if you do have a furnace or a water heater that goes out, or your garage door or opener goes out, then you pay a $69 range. That's about what it is, deductible. And a home warranty company will come out and fix those items for you.
Just telling you, those things are the best because I've used them multiple times. So anyway, I'm a big proponent of that home warranty.
Absolutely. So through our process, we'll help you set all of this stuff up so you don't have to worry about it all. We'll just basically keep spoon feeding you the everything you need to know, Jeff and I. But there is a lot that goes on between you trying to get all the documents over, you're trying to plan your move, and it's easier just to have someone just kind of help facilitate that. Really, as far as it says the sole discretion of buyers, as far as due diligence goes, just know that you can cancel for any reason you want as long as it's conditioned upon appraisal. That's what your contract reads. And so we don't have to provide any sort of reason at that point. We just need to work within our deadlines. Okay. So we talked about the rest of those. Answering the questions here as we're waiting for the slide to change. Yes, we'll get you a recorded copy. We're going to be reaching out to you guys. And if you'd like a copy of this, we'll be happy to do that.
Andrew, Andres, you got a couple questions. After you buy a home, if in a couple of years you have some good money to pay more of the mortgage, can you pay more than your monthly payments? Yes. It's just called a principal reduction, and you can add monthly or one-time large amounts. You can pay down your principal as quickly as you want. There are no prepayment penalties on our loans. And how often can you reevaluate your mortgages to potentially lower your interest payments? You can't refinance more than 121 days in between one loan and the next. You can do it as quickly as that. Typically, you don't see rates change that much that quickly, but it does happen occasionally. It did last year. So it might be a situation where you go in and you refinance. We had a couple people that refinanced a couple times in 1 year, which is crazy to think about, but it happens. But typically, you're really not looking at refinance to lower your interest rates, but maybe one time, in the first part of the loan or something like that. So,
And that's a really good question, because the more you learn about the financial strategy of home ownership, you can take a 30-year loan, and just by making bi-weekly payments, which means you're gonna, if you have a $2,000 monthly mortgage payment, by making $1,000 payment every 2 weeks, you're gonna knock 7 years off your 30-year loan, just because it's ended up giving you another payment at the end of each year. You can set all that up automatically, so you don't have to think about it. But there's strategies where you can accelerate your mortgage payoff by not even changing your budget that much. It's awesome, and you can do really good getting ahead through some of these tools. We talk
yeah,
about that
we've
more later.
we've got amortization schedules and different things where we can say, well, if you put $100 extra to principal, how quickly is that going to pay off the loan, or 500 or 250 or whatever the number is, and we can run those things for you to let you know.
Perfect. Okay, so you move in. You're going to get your keys. You want to change your mail, your utilities. Now it's that the fun part is going to begin, right? You're going to start making friends in your neighborhood. Everyone gets excited about their vision and their projects, and they're excited to have a home they now own. People are getting the relief package from the government. They're seeing money coming in that they can spend, and that's all great. Just know that so many people spend the wrong money on their home when they're maintaining it. You need to maintain it. Just like you're going to take care of your body, you're going to go to the gym, you're going to have a good diet, and you're going to do these types of things. Your home is just as important. And so stay on top of the maintenance. However, before you start upgrading it and putting additional luxuries in your home, or remodeling, it's so important to understand how much return on investment you're going to get specifically to what you're planning to do. Okay. So for example, when you finish your basement, did you know that lumber prices and electrical, and there's so many different costs of materials that have gone up so dramatically? It's almost $40 to $45 a square foot today to finish your basement. You only get $15 back on resale when you turn around and sell that. So that's a big difference between what's going to cost and what you're going to get back on that investment. And so the same would apply on the cost to finish a one bedroom. What are you going to get back in resale? It's going to cost you $7,000 to $8,000 to finish one bedroom in your basement or to remodel. You're only going to get $1,000 back. Okay, I could talk about this a lot, but it's so necessary to understand how long you plan on living in the home. What are your goals with that home? Why are what specific needs is that accomplishing for your family or for somebody that lives in your, if you're renting a part of your basement? Just understanding what your purpose is and what your exit strategy is will be so important to understand what upgrades. So use us as a resource, not just to buy and sell one home, but we could be a coach, Jeff and I, as we look down the road and as you make home ownership improvement decisions, so that you can maintain the very best return on your value. Okay.
Well, I like the one that you talk about when it comes to it was the furnace, I think you used as the example, where there's all different types of furnaces, and if you have say you want to upgrade your furnace, or your furnace seems to be on the fritz, that when that HVAC company gets there, they're going to try and sell you, the $25,000, premium, does everything that they say under the sun. But what kind of retail value, or how does that increase the value of your home? Does it?
Right. Yes.
No,
Not really.
Not really, hardly at all, if anything, really. So would it be better to do the $10,000 furnace or the $25,000 furnace? Well, if the $10,000 furnace is going to heat your home, and there's no real significant difference other than all these bells and whistles that they're saying, really you're better off going with the smaller pack, the smaller product there, and not dumping too much money into something like that, where you may be able to take that extra money and put it into something else that can add better value to your house. So
That's right. And so how do we make those decisions? It goes down to how long you can own the home. If this is the home that you're gonna, live in the rest of your life, well, it makes sense to upgrade to the $25,000, like the Cadillac of furnaces, because you're gonna, after several years, you'll get to a point where you're gonna save on utilities because it runs more efficiently, right? But if you're gonna turn around and sell that house in a year and a half or 2 years, then you got sunk on that investment, because a buyer is not going to pay you more for that furnace than one that works and one that's less money. Same applies with the solar panels. Those are $30,000-$40,000. I have yet to see a transaction when a seller still owed money on his solar panels that the buyer didn't request them to be paid off by the seller before that transaction.
Well, they have to be now. That's part of the new lending guidelines, is that these sellers have to, that because it's attached to the home and it's not part of the home.
Mm.
You have to actually have it paid off when you're doing the sale of the property. So anyway,
and the sellers aren't getting any more money.
They're not getting any more money.
So understand, have a plan, right? The more planned you are and the more purposeful you are through owning a home is going to pay off big time. Okay. So we'll talk about that a lot more. So stay on top of your maintenance, tax benefits and appreciation, renting versus owning. Would you rather be paying somebody else's investment for them or be the investor, right? So if your home is really going to appreciate 15 to 20% this year, that's a huge amount of money. How long does it take you to put $80,000 of after-tax savings in your bank account, right?
It takes me a long time.
It takes people years. And so you could literally get that much because of what the market's doing in 1 year, what's going on today. So be the person that's enjoying that instead of paying for somebody else.
And there are some investment strategies with that too. When you start building up equity in your home, you can get a home equity line of credit and potentially use that money to help invest and buy other properties. And these are very advanced strategies, and we can talk to you as we're going along, type of thing. But there are tools you can use because of the fact that values are going up now.
That's right. Yeah, that HELOC program, that's my very, very favorite financial tool, the home equity line of credit. We'll talk more about that if you have other questions, but there's some powerful things that you can do just because you've enjoyed owning a home. So what do we got next, James? Any questions we missed? We'll have that recording. I think we mentioned that. Yep. Closing costs. Did you talk about how much closing costs are?
Where was that?
Right here.
Missed that altogether. Just that's kind of a hard number because there's different ways you can strategize. Again, with even the closing costs, you can adjust the interest rate so that the lender pays some of those for you, or you can try to buy down the interest rate, get a little bit lower of an interest rate, which is going to increase the closing costs. If you want to just get just a rough number, you can probably use just 2% of the purchase price is about what the closing cost would be.
Okay. So plan on that being a part of your loan, because it certainly will be. Anyways, on the investment side, we've hit on this. Cash flow is what people usually think is the big draw to owning an investment property. How much money am I going to make in addition to my mortgage payment? So that's just one side of it. People really need to remember the mortgage pay down. If you have a renter in your property, you're not only getting the, say the $200 on top of what the cash flow is, but that if it's a $300,000 home, you're probably getting a quarter to a third of that payment that's paying down your principal amount. So you're getting some return there. Also, your assets appreciating through the inflation. Plus, there's tax advantages where if you own a home,
these tax advantages are pretty significant, both as an owner or an investor. The owner, you get to write off all the interest. It becomes part of your itemized amounts. So depending on how much that interest is, you could actually get more than the standard deduction that we're allowed for either an individual or married couples. And on the investment side, if you own investment property, those tax advantages are pretty extreme. I mean, you get to write off everything when it comes to an investment property. So that's pretty great.
That's right.
When I mean everything, you get to write off the insurance, the property taxes, the interest, the HOA fees. If you put any repairs into it, you can write that off. I mean, it's pretty great.
On the scenarios that we've been running recently on with our investors, when you consider all four quadrants and you take into consider the depreciation in addition on your tax quadrant there, number four, we're seeing 40 to 60% annual returns on for our investors when everything's considered on their down payment, so on their cash on cash return. So anyways, it's powerful. But we'll talk more about that. We've covered a lot of things, and you've asked a lot of great questions. So much of the strategy is going to be personal and personalized towards you. And so let me ask, how do you buy a home in the current market where cash offers for over asking seems to get the homes? Well, that you're probably going to compete against that. And so it's so dependent on how much down payment you have, what your timelines are, where you can, how you can compete with other financial.
Yeah, but Brett, I've seen you guys do some pretty great strategies on your offers to where you're like, hey, we will pay above based on, where the appraised value comes in off of the purchase price and some different things. So their team are writing up offers that are getting accepted, even though you're competing against some pretty strong market factors that are out there right now. And I feel like the Wild team's been ahead of the curve. Some people are catching up to their ideas, and now they're kind of using a couple of the same strategies, not all seven, maybe one or two, but straight cash offer, those can be tough. But Brett and UCCU have come up with a strategy to maybe compete with those cash offers to a certain degree. And we can talk about those individually, but there's just a little kind of teaser on that, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, it's so specific to your situation, but essentially, if we need to utilize tools where you come in as a cash offer as well to compete, then there are those options, and we'll talk about those together specifically with your situation. So, yeah, just know we got your back. This is all we're doing every day as we're talking about this. We're studying it. We're coming up with new ways to be competitive as things adjust. And our market and our industry is being disrupted faster than any time I've ever seen. And so we're constantly doing what we can to be ahead of the curve.
A couple more questions popped up. Do you pay taxes on appreciation of the property, though? If your home value increases, does it affect your taxes? That's at the county level. So the county determines if your property taxes are going up. Yes, typically, if your value is going up, the county is going to take that into account, and so your property taxes would go up. However, that's usually incorporated into your monthly payment. So it's if it goes up $120 a year, that's $1 more to your payment is all. So that's at $10. I'm sorry, $10.
You'll get a statement also from your mortgage company notifying you that your taxes have gone up, and they're going to adjust your payments because your mortgage company is the one that pays those for you each year. So if it changes or adjust, they'll let you know, and you can just modify your budget a little there. Foreclosures were really big in 2008, 9, 10, 11. There were so many homes on the market that they provided great opportunities to buy bank-owned homes that had potentially lots of equity in them. Today, the inventory is so low that if there are any foreclosure properties, they still hit the MLS. They still get seen through. You'll get them through our property notices. But banks, like anyone else, want to get the most out of their assets as possible, and because of the demand is so high, they're not really any cheaper than anything else. And so, if you want the best chance to get a deal is to get one of our off-market options that we'll have for you. It's very possible that we'll see a round of foreclosures hit, but I think that's just going to help give more supply to the market. until we see the supply and the demand even out a little bit, I don't think you're going to see these extraordinary deals with foreclosures and anytime soon.
No, and a lot of times when it becomes a bank-owned property, they're selling that on the county steps, and it's a bidding war, and it's cash only. So that can be kind of tough sometimes. I mean, there are some opportunities where you can bid in there, and it's a very specific way that the banks make you bid on a financing side. But there's just very few of those out right now.
And there's different steps of that process. And so generally they will hit the MLS if you can get them early. We can talk about that more, but then you can go and bid on the steps, and you have to have cash to do so. But so as we've learned and thought about what's next, one thing that will definitely help you that we recommend is, you saw Jeff and I's email. Send us a text or an email and just identify what your search criteria is like. And so we can understand what you're looking for. Even if you're not ready to go buy a house next week or in the next several months, get set up on a hot sheet, which is basically an automated search result that's going to hit you as is homes that meet your criteria. The reason is you want to learn the rhythm of the market, what it's doing. You can start to understand what areas are going to be the best for you, what the prices are in those areas, and get educated before you actually pull the trigger to purchase. And so set that up. Send us what you're looking for, and we'll gladly do that, as well as get you a financial assessment.
It's
so we
really, it's a lifesaver. It's a lifesaver to, well, both of those things, but to get the hot sheet set up, that part of it, to know what you're interested in and getting that sent over to you on a regular basis, you get a real feel for, what's being sold out there in the market, and just to be able to jump on those pictures, the area, see what you're looking at, you can make a decision to make an offer pretty quickly. And that's what you need in this day and age with everything. When do you see the markets readjusting or dropping?
Well, so a healthy market is usually 8 or 9 months of inventory. Okay. That basically means if all the homes that were currently active for sale, if no more came available, it would take that long, 8 or 9 months, for all those homes to sell off, right? No other homes came available. Well, right now we're less than a month. We're in the weeks, right? And so that is why you're seeing so much stir, so many articles come across the news. It's so competitive. And until that changes, I don't think it's going to drop. That's the most common question that I get is, hey, should I wait until the market drops till I buy? I don't want to pay such high prices. You can wait, but you're gonna miss the bus, and you need to get in the market now. Not just because the prices, because the rates are so low. And I'm telling you, they're going to start increasing gradually. They have to, because of, the national debt and all these other reasons.
All these economies of scale.
There's so many reasons.
There's a lot of reasons, but rate is the one thing that, if you can lock in your interest rate, that's the one thing that's going to determine how much you really pay on the price of the home over time. And if you were able to get a 3%, well, we said 4% versus a 5%, it's really down to 3, but on a $300,000 loan, that's $66,000 over the life of the loan. My word, I could do a lot with $66,000. And if you talk about waiting to see if something's going to drop, and let's say the value of a home drops, but the interest rate goes up, well, if the value drops by 66,000, but the rate goes up by a full percent, now you've really just missed out on the whole thing. You're not getting a better deal because you're going to be paying the same amount on that loan over the life of the loan. So getting in with a low interest rate is really the most important part of all of financing. And right now we're at historically low rates. It's a great time to get approved and find a home.
Yeah, we love talking about this. And I was just on a conference call with some really credible economists, and in our industry, the commercial side of the economy. Think of all the people that go to work in these big high-rise office space buildings. 25 to 30% of the commercial industry is going to shift into residential because of COVID. There's a lot of companies that have not seen a big dip in productivity as their employees have now worked from home. And so people are flooding into Utah because they love the recreation, the lifestyle. Homes are relatively less money compared to other places around the country. And so now they can be here and enjoy a different lifestyle and lower cost of living. But if you think about that shift of that's going to go into the residential, that's going to continue to surge our prices. There's so many conversations that we could talk about that support why home ownership is going to continue to increase values. And so think about that. You don't want to delay if you can get in and purchase and get your place before they continue to increase, because they really will. And when it does slow down, they'll probably stable off and hold for a while. I don't personally see a major market crash.
Historically, you can just see how you have little dips like this, but for over time, there is no question. Even in 2008, when values did drop, it was only for a very short period of time, and those people's values recovered dramatically. I know some of the people in my neighborhood, their values may have dropped to 275, 280,000, and those same homes today are worth $600,000.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just crazy. I'm going to answer a couple other questions.
Okay.
If I'm a student who just graduated and with a start and will start a new, much higher paying job in a few weeks, how long of an employment record would a bank expect to see? Well, if you're under contract with your new employer and they're agreeing to pay you a certain amount, we can actually do future employment loans, which means you don't even have to be employed with them yet before you can start. And so a future employment is within 90 days of your start date. And you do have to have some additional money in savings, what they call reserves, to see that you can make the payments if something were to go wrong. If you weren't talking about future employment, they typically want to see a month worth of pay stubs. So hopefully that answers that. If you buy now at a higher price, if we refinance, would we be upside down on loans? That you can't really answer that question because we're not seeing that values are going to go down.
Yeah, it depends on when you refinance, but as we're talking about, it's most likely that the values are going to continue to increase for the time being. And so, but if you're going to turn around and refinance immediately, then that could be an issue.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, hard to answer that one.
What is the highest interest rate that you have ever seen someone pay, and what is the average interest rate for home buyers? Well, interest rates, you go back to the 80s and they were like 17, 18% way back in the 80s. And I remember my dad refinancing down to like 10 or 11%. He was all excited. I'm like, what? Look back at that now, and that's crazy. My first home was at 7.125.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did my first loan at. And, that was 20 years ago or whatever. That was a long time. But anyway.
What's funny is my parents are always talking about, oh, I had an 18% loan. And, but they'll say on the other side, the same conversation, I only paid $75,000 for my house, right? But when you consider the two, their payments were probably, not too far off.
Not too far off, probably, yeah.
Right. So
it's all relative, but right now, your average interest rate, you're average. The interest rate you're seeing, if you were to go, you can go right to UCCU.com and look at the daily rates on the 30-year conventional, those type of things, or FHAs. But conventional, you're probably 2.875, 3%, somewhere in there.
How does it work when you sell a house with a mortgage and buy a different one? You pay off the mortgage with the sale of the house and then get a new mortgage for the new house. There's a lot of strategy on this one. It can be simple and it can be complicated. It so much depends on how much money you have to work with on the side, how much equity do you have in your home, and then we provide a whole bunch of other strategies as well. And so we've got some instant cash options for you that are close to market value. There's also some options where we can go and offer on a home, get a contract put together, and then you can go contingent selling your house first. That one's a really hard one because most people don't want to sell to someone that needs to get their house sold first.
A year ago, it was acceptable.
Yeah, today
Today, they're like, no, I don't want to deal with it as a seller.
it's harder. But you can also go ahead and put your house under contract. So if you have an existing home, going to market and getting the top dollar out of that home. And as long as you use the right strategy, you will get multiple offers right now. And so if we can find multiple people to negotiate with, it's very common that we can get someone to close on the house, let you stay in as a renter now on your former property. You'll still live there. So now you have the money up front to go purchase the new, and then we can usually negotiate at least 2 months to close on a new home. There's a strategy there. There's a whole bunch of work throughs that we can talk about, but it's very specific to your situation.
Yeah, so hit us up afterward, and we'd be happy to touch base with you about that. If you don't like your realtor, how do you fire them so you can go with someone else? I'll let you answer that.
So there is a buyer broker agreement that most of you would have signed. If an agent's putting offers in your behalf, it's required he has a buyer broker sign. That comes down from the division of real estate. And so if you don't know you signed one, then that's not a good thing. So you need to talk to him about that, or her. But ultimately, these contracts are between the brokerage and you as the buyer. But most of the time, if you had a conversation with your agent and let him know your concerns, hopefully he'll work around that and make it right. If he wants to hold you to it, I guess that's his decision. But if ultimately most of us want to work with people that are happy with us, so we can continue to get good reviews online. And so if they can give you a written notice that they'll release you, then you can do whatever you want. But talk to your agent about it. Make sure that you can find an agreement where you're happy to work with each other and there's a strategy you're confident with. But there's certainly other options as long as you guys can come to an agreement.
I think that's it. I think we got all the questions answered. Kind of gone over a little bit here. We wanted to be done by 8 o'clock, so I think we're gonna probably look to sign off. But please take our emails there, jeffp@uccu.com or wildbrett@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out to us with any of your additional or further questions that you have. And again, hopefully you learned a lot tonight, and we were able to enlighten you a little bit, and we look forward to working with you. We sure hope we can help you enjoy the joys of home ownership and owning your own place. So feel free to contact us anytime. And again, thanks everybody, and have a great night.
Thank you so much. Look forward to meeting y'all.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I'm going to stay on for a couple for anyone else that wants to request the recording. I'll gladly get that to you. So send me just reply in the chat. And then if there is anything else, reply in the chat as well. So thank you for coming, and have a good night.
Thanks, James.
Yep, thanks, guys. I'll get you everything from this in the morning, and you can go from there.
Okay, sounds good. Have a great night.
Yep,
Thanks, James.
you too. We'll see you guys.